The Asheville Grand, Monday, 7 in the morning. The hotel manager steered Claire Whitfield toward the desk. "Miss Whitfield, this is Mr. Cross. He came in overnight for the fault on 3. Whole wing would have been dark." Daniel Cross stood by the service door in a gray work uniform, toolbox at his feet. He extended his hand. Claire's eyes dropped to it, grease caught in the crease of his knuckle, and then she looked away and kept walking. Not a word. Daniel lowered his hand. Slowly, his face held nothing. He didn't know the woman who just walked past him held 60% of his firm. Asheville, in 2024, was a city in the middle of becoming something. The old neighborhoods held on craftsman bungalows, independent hardware stores, diners with handwritten menus, while new money crept in from the edges, converting warehouses into creative offices, planting coffee shops with no signs on the door. It was the kind of city where a man in a work uniform and a woman running a 7-figure consulting firm could live within 2 miles of each other and never once occupy the same room. Claire Whitfield had built Whitfield and Voss Consulting over 5 years, out of a single rented office on Lexington Avenue, and a willingness to outwork everyone in the room. The firm was good, genuinely good at turning struggling mid-market companies into acquisition targets or turnaround stories. She had 12 employees, 3 anchor clients, and a reputation that had finally grown large enough to reach the kind of investors who didn't return cold calls. Meridian Capital was the largest she had ever approached, $18 million. The number sat in her head every morning before she was fully awake. Garrett Voss, co-founder, COO, the man whose name came second on the letterhead, had his own ideas about how to approach Meridian. In the conference room that Monday afternoon, he laid out a presentation restructured to center his operational role. Claire listened without interrupting. When he finished, she asked one question: "Which sections did you move?" Garrett smiled the way people smile when they think the other person is missing the bigger picture. "The ones that needed context," he said. Claire nodded once and said nothing more. She had learned that some arguments were worth having in writing. Daniel left the Asheville Grand at 8:15, drove across town in his F-150, and was parked outside Asheville Elementary by 3. He watched the double doors until Lily came through them at 3 to 10, backpack bouncing, a folded piece of construction paper clutched in both hands like a document of some importance. "I drew our house," she said, handing it to him before he could ask. He unfolded it carefully. A square house in green crayon, 1 window, a tree that was taller than the house, and 2 figures out front, 1 tall, 1 small. He folded it back along her original crease and tucked it into his shirt pocket. "It's good," he said. "I know," she said. He had been doing this for 4 years. Wake at 5:30, take the first job call, be done before 2:30 when possible, pick up Lily by 3:15 at the latest, dinner by 6, dishes by 7. Lily in bed by 8:30, then the quiet part of the evening, the part where he would scroll through the emails from Marcus without opening most of them, read the ones that needed a response, typed 2 lines, and closed the laptop. Marcus ran Meridian Capital. Daniel let him. It had been the arrangement since Sarah died, and it worked well enough that neither of them had felt the need to revisit it. That evening, Claire received a text from Lily's teacher about a parent volunteer meeting for the 3rd grade science project. Daniel received the same message 4 minutes later. Claire read the sign-up sheet attached. Her daughter Emma was paired with a student named Lily Cross. She typed a confirmation, set her phone face down on her desk, and went back to the pitch deck. Daniel read the message while standing over the stove. He scrolled to the parent contact listed alongside his Whitfield, Claire. He stopped, then he put his phone on the counter and turned down the heat under the soup. The parent meeting was held on a Tuesday evening in the school library, folding chairs, arranged in a rough circle, the smell of dry erase markers and old carpet. Daniel arrived at 6:50 and took a seat near the back. He had his jacket on, which was unusual for him. He wasn't sure why he'd put it on. Claire arrived at 7:04. She moved to the front without looking around. She did not see Daniel until 20 minutes later, when the teacher, Miss Fowler, a small woman with reading glasses pushed up into her hair, began organizing parents into pairs to support the project. Claire was assigned to the same table as Daniel. She sat down across from him, looked at his face, placed him the lobby, the extended hand, the moment she had kept walking. Something shifted briefly behind her eyes and then was gone. She opened the project binder Miss Fowler had distributed and said, "The presentation is scheduled for the 15th? That's what it says," Daniel said. They divided the support tasks without difficulty. He would help with the structural materials. She would coordinate the research component. It took 9 minutes. They did not discuss anything outside the project. Across the room, Lily was showing Emma something on a piece of paper, a sky she had painted in art class. Blue layered over blue with white pressed in at the center. "You can't just use one color," Lily was saying. "You have to blend it, otherwise it looks fake." Emma studied the painting with the seriousness of someone being taught something she suspected she should already know. Claire watched them for a moment. She looked away before Daniel could notice her looking. That night, after Lily was asleep, Marcus called. Daniel was sitting on the back porch with his phone on the armrest, watching the lights of the neighborhood through the maple branches. "I need to tell you something," Marcus said. He didn't use that phrasing lightly. "Meridian is moving forward on a deal. The firm is called Whitfield & Voss Consulting. Does that name mean anything to you?" Daniel was quiet for a moment. "I've met her." "When?" "Twice. Once at the Grand, once tonight at Lily's school." A pause. "Then you need to know the Lily Cross Trust holds 60% of Meridian's voting shares. Every deal above 10 million requires your signature. You're the controlling stakeholder, Daniel. You've always been." "I know what I am," Daniel said. "Process it the normal way." "I can't." Marcus's voice dropped. "Garrett Voss, the co-founder, is pushing a term structure that would dilute Claire Whitfield's equity to below 30% within 18 months of closing. She wouldn't have enough shares left to block a buyout. He's planning to acquire her position at a distressed valuation once the dilution triggers kick in. If you sign the deal as currently written, you're signing her out of her own company." Daniel said nothing. Rain had started light, barely audible, just enough to make the leaves move. "Send me the full term sheet," he said. "Tonight." "Daniel." "Tonight." "Marcus." He sat there after the call ended. After a while, he opened the laptop he kept on the kitchen table for Lily's homework. He typed the name into the search bar, Whitfield & Voss Consulting. The website loaded clean, professional, a photograph of the executive team. Claire Whitfield was in the center. He recognized her immediately. The lobby, the hand he had offered, the direction she had walked. He closed the laptop halfway, then opened it again. There was work to do. He read through the documents until 2 in the morning, working the way he worked a complicated electrical fault, not from the end backward, but from the source forward, tracing each line until he understood where the current was meant to go and where it was actually going. The term sheet was 41 pages. The dilution mechanism was on page 11, inside a subclause under the definition of conversion event. It was written in the grammar of standard legal language, the kind of phrasing designed to be ignored because it resembled everything around it. But the math it described was exact. If Claire signed this deal as written, she would own less of her company with every month that passed, and there would be nothing in the agreement that technically prevented it. At 2:17 in the morning, Daniel sent Marcus an email. "I need to know who drafted Section 4B on Garrett Voss's side, and I need the full internal correspondence between Garrett and the Meridian board members going back 60 days. He did not go to sleep after that. He sat in the kitchen and thought about the kind of person who would architect something this careful over this long a period of time. At the office the next morning, Claire stood at the whiteboard running through the pitch sequence with her team. She had divided the presentation into 3 sections: market context, operational track record, and growth roadmap. She was presenting the operational section herself. Garrett had the financial model. She paused at one point and asked, without making it a larger moment than it was, "Who's the actual decision-maker at Meridian?" "Not the committee who moves first." Garrett looked up from his laptop. "It's a committee structure, standard for a firm their size. No single person holds veto power on the investment side." "That's not what I asked," Claire said. Garrett set his pen down. "The committee acts on consensus. There's no individual with unilateral authority." He said it the way a person says something true, in a way designed to leave out something important. Claire turned back to the whiteboard. That evening, she picked up Emma from the after-school program and asked on the drive home, "How's the science project coming?" "Good," Emma said. "Lily figured out how to make the rings on Saturn look right." You have to use 2 different colors of orange. How do you know which colors to use? She just knows, Emma said, as if this required no further explanation. Claire looked at the road. That night, Marcus's reply arrived in Daniel's inbox. Attached were 62 pages of email correspondence. Garrett had been in contact with 2 Meridian board members for 6 weeks before the official pitch process began. The emails were careful, nothing explicit, nothing that named the dilution play directly, but the pattern was legible to anyone paying attention. Garrett had been building relationships on the inside of the deal, while presenting himself to Claire as focused entirely on the outside. Daniel printed the relevant pages, folded them into an envelope, and put the envelope in the inside pocket of his jacket. Then he went to bed, because tomorrow he had a job in West Asheville that started at 7, and the homeowner had already called twice to reschedule. The Meridian Capital offices occupied the top 2 floors of a glass building on College Street that reflected the Blue Ridge in the mornings when the light was right. On the 14th floor, the conference room had windows on 3 sides. The mountains to the west looked close enough to touch. Claire arrived at 9:45 with her team. Garrett was already set up, laptop connected to the display, printed materials at every seat, a yellow legal pad at his own place covered in handwriting Claire hadn't seen before the meeting. He had been here earlier than she had. She noted this and said nothing. The presentation ran an hour and 20 minutes. Claire handled the opening and the strategy sections. Without hesitation, she had given versions of this talk dozens of times and had stopped needing notes for it 2 years ago. Garrett took the financial model and ran long on it, drifting twice into territory that belonged to her section. Each time she waited for a natural pause and then redirected with a question that brought the room back to the framework she had established. The board members asked good questions. The session ended with handshakes and the polished neutrality of people who make decisions on other people's timelines. While the pitch was in progress, Daniel was sitting in the 4th floor waiting area with a paper cup of water and his jacket folded over one knee. The receptionist had asked him twice if he needed anything else. He had said no both times. Marcus came down at 11:15. They stood in the corridor near the stairwell door. "You could have told me you were coming," Marcus said. "I'm telling you now." Marcus looked at him, the work jacket, the paper cup, the complete absence of performance. "You haven't been in a board meeting since Sarah died." "I'm not going to a board meeting. I'm sitting in a hallway." "Daniel, who in that room knows my name?" Marcus thought about it. No one. The board members know the trust exists. They don't know who the trustee is. "Good," Daniel said. "Keep it that way." The pitch team came out at 12:05. Garrett moved immediately to shake hands with the board members, positioning himself between Claire and the people she needed to talk to. Claire stepped around him without making it visible. Then she came around the corner of the hallway and stopped. Daniel was standing by the window at the end of the corridor, hands in his pockets, looking out at the mountains. He turned when he heard footsteps. It took her a moment to assemble at the lobby, the school library, this hallway on the 14th floor of the firm that was about to write her company an $18 million check. 3 different rooms, one face. "You work here?" she said. "Not exactly." Marcus stepped out from the stairwell door. "Miss Whitfield." He extended his hand. "Marcus Cross. And this is my brother Daniel Cross." The hallway was quiet. Somewhere below them, a door closed. Claire looked at Daniel Cross, and Daniel Cross looked back at her, and neither of them said the thing that was sitting in the air between them. Marcus walked Claire to a small conference room off the main corridor, glass walls, 4 chairs, a table the size of a kitchen island. He closed the door. Garrett was not in the room. Through the glass, she could see the hallway, but Daniel was around the corner and out of view. He explained it without embellishment. The Lily Cross Trust had been established in 2010. It held 60% of Meridian Capital's voting equity. The trust's sole trustee was Daniel Cross. Any investment decision exceeding $10 million required his written approval. Without his signature, the deal did not close. It was that simple, and had always been that simple. Claire listened. Her hands were flat on the table. She asked no questions while Marcus spoke, and when he finished she was quiet for a moment before she said, "How long has this structure been in place?" "Since we founded the firm," Marcus said. "Daniel stepped back from operations 4 years ago. His wife passed. He needed distance, and I gave it to him, and neither of us revisited the equity structure afterward." "Why not?" Marcus considered the question. because he didn't want to, and because Meridian kept running. You don't fix what functions, she nodded.